with second stage tanks now pressurized. Astronauts report it feels good. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Like a furry torpedo to the jugular. This is Honey Badger Radio. Radio with Buddy.
Hello and welcome to HBR Talk 398. Men exist, women most affected. Here with Nonsense Annihilator Lauren Brooks, the personification of perceptivity Mike Stevenson.
Hello.
Richard the Lionhearted, and the Doge in charge. Even just by existing, right? You don't have to even so much as fart. You just have to be, really.
Wait, you people fart? What the?
You should hear me.
I've been on a bench reading a book.
There we go. And apparently, it's the government's job to do something about it. What? We don't know, but something, right? Whatever it is, women will probably complain about it. In the meantime, we're going to read an article about it, of course. But before we get into that, we gotta do what we gotta do. As always, Honey Badger Radio dishes out a smorgasbord of thought-provoking discussions, and as experiences both recent and long past have demonstrated, the provoked thoughts are fighting back. They've made it clear that for people like us, relying on third-party payment platforms like Patreon to fund our work is treading on thin ice or building our house in the path of a rapidly growing wildfire. In light of this, we strongly encourage our supporters to switch at least their support for us to feedthebadger.com, the most stable way to help us out. And if you want to tip us directly instead of relying on any social media platform's tip jar, the link for that is feedthebadger.com/justthetip. And as always, the same risk applies to our social media platforms, which is why you should further provoke the thought police by tracking our thought-provoking discussions on honeybadgerbrigade.com, where you can find a link to all of our content, as well as a link to, or where you can find all of our content on the page itself, actually. But as well as a link to feedthebadger.com in the drop-down menu at the top of the page. And honeybadgerbrigade.com mostly has links to our shows. But if you go through the various months in the menu on the side of the page, you will find that there are also some great articles and various subjects, including some by me. Been a while, but I'm in there, so just take a look. And with that, we can actually get into the show material today. So, last several shows, we've been going over some various statements made by female journalists about the Manosphere, or about incels, or about whatever else they don't like about men. We then also discovered an article in which, as much as these women hate men, they are blaming men for not wanting to have babies with women, and yet it's women who don't want to get married now, even though they complained about men going their own way. So, just so you know, there's no right way to do things, right? You can't go one direction and get yelled at for it and assume that the opposite direction is okay. You know, you're going to get yelled at for that way too. That's just the way.
The third word in this headline is linked. Toxic manosphere linked to worrying rise in young people. Well, yeah, that sort of in the lizard brain suggests causation, but it's not even well, it is correlation insofar as it's linked somewhere in a chain between causes and effects, and it's sort of like saying toxic aspirin linked to worrying rise in headaches. And yes, that there's a link there. Yes, there is a link, but the thing is, people are taking more aspirin because people are having more headaches. That's what's going on there.
Yep. It's almost like Bob goes to the grocery store to pick up a bunch of different things and a bottle of wine for dinner, but they didn't have that wine. But he knows they carry it at the liquor store, so he goes there, picks it up. But while he's there, he runs into his old buddy and he's like, "Oh, I know where you can get that at a better price." But he's not thinking about him drinking it at the at home. He's thinking of him drinking it on the premises. The next thing you know, Bob's at a bar, has several glasses of this wine, has a car accident on the way home, and some dipshit in some news outlet writes, "Going to the grocery store linked to car accidents." Yep, it's pretty much how we have a worrying rise in young people radicalized online. Of course, they call everything radicalized now too. So the other end of this is, if you think that if something is a human right, that should include humans of all demographics, whether they're male or female, black or white, short or tall, big or small, whatever. You're radical. You've been radicalized, right? Because human rights are only for people who have historical victimhood that they can claim. They used to be for everybody. The term human rights used to mean the rights of all human beings. And the only exception is that obviously parents have to speak for their children because their children do not have the competence yet. They haven't developed the competence yet as they are developing their brains and their emotional control to actually make use of those rights in a manner that's safe for them. But adults get to make their own decisions, right? So human rights are supposed to be everybody's rights. But in the last maybe 20, 30 years or so, all of a sudden, when you start talking about any particular right that is discussed as a human right, you get yelled at for thinking that all humans should be considered and not just Group A. Group A being the ones with the victimhood at the moment, whether it's people of a particular skin color, people of a particular religion, people of a particular sex, people who are one sex and consider themselves to be the other sex, right? People who sleep with this group of people who sleep with that group of people, but definitely not you. And that seems to be the biggest problem. You're radical if you think human rights mean your rights. And with that, we can get into the article. Just keep that in mind. It says, and by the way, this is by Ryan Hooper. So I was given to understand clear back in the day that Mr. Hooper died, but I don't know if his name was Ryan. So the UK is ill-prepared to deal with a new wave of online extremists radicalized by toxic misogynists spouting anti-Semitism and conspiracy theories, MPs warned today. So we have just the first sentence.
Yeah. I love Jews. I love bagels. I love bagels.
I love all of the above peoples.
There we go.
I do not resemble that remark. I do not resemble any of those remarbles. How very dare you?
We are online extremists radicalized by... Oh, no, wait. We are the toxic misogynists, right? Because that's what we get told all the time. Especially me, because I tell women that they should be accountable for their sexual choices. That's apparently blasphemy or something. But yeah, look at this first, just the first sentence. Okay. We had to throw in misogyny, anti-Semitism, and conspiracy theories all in one sentence just to make the point. This is particularly bad. These people are so bad that they've got not one, not two, but 3 of the badisms. You guys should really steer clear of these badisms. They are very dangerous people. Who are they? Well, the second sentence is going to tell us. The Manosphere. So it's kind of like the patriarchy, right? Or the MRA. We're all just one guy.
The
Sitting in his
hacker,
The
basement.
entire MRI.
the hacker known as 4chan.
Yes, we are the hacker known as 4chan. The Manosphere has been cited as particularly responsible for shaping the attitude of young minds, according to a Home Affairs Committee report. So, is Home Affairs like a gossip group, or is it more like Homeland Security? Like, what is that?
It's Homeland Security.
Oh, good grief.
They messed up a couple of things. Well, more than a couple of things. They were the ones behind the Windrush scandal back a few years ago, where lots of immigrants came over from Jamaica and they messed up their papers, and some immigrants had to go back and come back through a different way.
That sounds like a mess.
And there was
Sounds expensive.
it was, and it cost my uncle his pension.
Jeez. That's insane.
Like he got it back, but he was in arrears though. So arrears is when you're late on the rent. So
Yeah. Well, or child
al-
support, but
yeah.
only if you owe it.
Also, I think there was some problems with a cat with the Home Office. I'm not too sure. Mike might, because I was too young to remember that story. So there's like
I've no idea what's going on.
They had problems with a cat. Did they hire a cat to be part of the to be the official mouse chaser or something? I remember there being something on the internet about some office in the UK hired a cat because the cat wouldn't stay out, so they hired it to be the official mouser of that particular office, and they actually
we do have a
made
cat.
the cat wear a tie.
Yeah, we do have a cat called Larry the cat that's in Parliament at the minute. So
Oh my gosh. Probably does a better job than most of the MPs.
and
But
it's more popular. It's more popular as well.
I can imagine. It's interesting though. They haven't really given a way in which young minds have been corrupted here. But Home Affairs Committee sounds like something that you would have in a church to prevent people from cheating on their partners. Not
So
the name of.
I think Jess Phillips is the Home Affairs office. I'm not too sure.
Oh, that's scary. Your Home Affairs office is afraid of me then. Like, has blocked me on X. If it's her.
Yeah. She's like, she's very. She's a very. I gotta be careful how I
We all
word it.
know who Jess Phillips is.
Yeah, we know she's
she's
misandric.
she's a very evil person.
But yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah, it was back during the
Was
it was
when she
back
was
during
laughing at?
the argument over giving I guess there's some sort of office on the welfare of men or of women, I mean, in the UK, and somebody
There's
has
a
been bringing up
there's an MP for women, but there's no MP for men.
right. And of course there was that question was brought up. You know, well, what about one for men? And she laughed at it, and then she went on to say some very stupid things. And I think I asked her something about that. You know, basically, Is it not sexist to deny men representation? Men don't deserve equal representation. So if men and women are equal, do men not have equal capacity to be vulnerable and have needs? And I think that's when she blocked me. So she's not really big on the idea of giving a shit if men are vulnerable and have needs.
None of none of them are.
Right. And what you end up with is, if men are abused, if men are dealing with domestic issues of any kind, if, job loss is making them suicidal, if, even if it's not related to women in any way, well, according to Jess Phillips, until every single little problem women have in their whole lives, beginning to end, is solved, you can't address any of men's issues, no matter how big they might be. Which kind of indicates that if one woman somewhere in the UK has a hangnail, male suicide has to stay off the table until that's fixed. So that's feminism in the UK. It's feminism in the US as well. We don't have an office for men either. We do have an office for men if they are in a particular victim group. But if they're not, then
Not
Uncle
even
Sam
that.
says they can go fuck themselves.
Not even, so certain ethnic men are not counted unless they're dead.
Yep, that's pretty much it. So yes, the Manosphere is responsible for having discussed these things, and that makes us the bad guys, right? The online network promotes anti-feminist beliefs. Yes, it is anti-feminist, guys. If you think that a violent crime is still a violent crime if the perpetrator is a woman and the victim is male, right? That's anti-feminist. Feminists do not agree with you on that. Some feminists will claim they agree with you on that, and they'll keep saying that right up until the point where it comes to voting for somebody who might actually change laws to reflect the fact that violence is still violent when women do it. And then all of a sudden they don't want to vote for that person anymore. So they don't agree. But yes, we promote anti-feminist beliefs, masculinity and misogyny. So promoting masculinity is a sin now.
It always was.
This is how bad it's gotten. They're just opening. They promote masculinity, guys. How dare they promote masculinity? What is wrong with you? And of course misogyny, and was the subject of the recent Louis Theroux documentary. It's totally a documentary. It's not propaganda.
It's a hit
Don't
piece.
use the word propaganda. Yeah, very much a hit piece, exploring the the impact of high profile social media personalities such as no one in the men's rights movement at all.
I didn't know how to pronounce that either. And good on you for not even bothering, because yeah, you're right.
It looks like high school tiki-taki. In where I'm from, if you just see HS, it's probably high school, but that's probably not what he meant.
But yeah, you're right. This isn't the men's movement. This is some bullshit that washed up ashore in the last 2 or 3 fucking years.
Yeah.
It took over the idea of the manosphere. It took over the idea of the red pill, and the red pill has been a thing since 2009. For anyone who doesn't know, I know I'm preaching to the choir because this is our audience, but yeah, the red pill thing was very much an invention of the early men's rights movement, as early as 2009, roughly when A Voice for Men was coming around.
We stole it from the Matrix movie, but we were kind of the first people to do that.
The metaphor itself isn't stealing, and nothing is stealing really. Things drift into the
It's an
into
homage.
things
Yeah.
drift into the river of change, and the river of change has taken that metaphor of the red pill and
Can you
it followed some pointless subsidiaries, shall we say?
can you tell Rollo Tomato that, because he thinks he invented it?
I invented Rollo. I invented all of you.
There we go.
I invented men. So there.
Yeah. I love, like, even, you know, the MRAs that people would think of as the original MRAs. People today would think of these original MRAs, have acknowledged that they're not the original MRAs. On A Voice for Men, there's a whole section where Paul Elam has published the writings of Ernest Belfort Bax, who was probably, at least in terms of the United States, and in terms of, he didn't call himself an MRA, but I mean, nobody started out calling themselves men's rights activists. That was something that we adopted after feminists tried to use it as a slur. Oh, you're a men's rights activist. Har, har, har. Well, if you're going to call us that, then we'll accept it. We'll talk about it that way. We
So
are
it's like
speaking in
your
terms of men's rights.
so it's like your N-word.
Yeah,
And it had to come
except
all it had to come all the way down to the literal description, down to the agent noun, down
Yep.
to the verb that we do. Like, we're not meninists. We're not the equivalent of feminists. We're not masculinists. We're not an ideology. We are just people who occasionally advocate for the human rights of men. And eventually they were like, okay, well, we can turn that into a verb.
yeah.
Men's rights advocate, see, or whatever, and then we can turn that into an initialism. This evil MRA thing. It sounds like like some kind of terrorist cell. See, we win the argument.
You said cell.
Yeah.
Yes, and then there were the incels, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. And of course, nobody understands the incels. But
Not even so-called experts.
yep. But there have been incels throughout human history. They just haven't always called themselves that.
The White
And
Brothers.
they haven't always networked because there hasn't always been an internet.
With the White Brothers, because of the incels.
They weren't incels. They
It
were
would depend on
MGTOWs.
whether or not they wanted a relationship. That's right, because if they
No,
didn't,
they were
But they're
too busy.
MGTOW.
They were too
Yeah.
busy inventing the aeroplane to get involved with any bitches. That's the story. Now, you could call that MGTOW, you could call it incel. It doesn't really matter. They invented airplanes. Fuck yourselves.
yeah, if they just decided that they didn't have time for women, then that's voluntary. And there's nothing wrong with that either, by the way. But yeah, so I don't know who this HS Tiki Taki guy is, but we're gonna find out, right? And then of course they mention their
He's a pickup
devil.
artist.
He's a what?
He's a pickup artist.
Okay, and their devil, Andrew Tate, who is the dorkiest devil I have ever seen.
I know, right?
He's also a pickup artist.
Yeah. The dude
Exactly.
would probably be fun to talk to, but I don't know. It depends on if he like gets out of political mode when he's just hanging out.
But he allegedly smashed Lauren Southern, so I don't have any.
Okay, yeah, maybe not.
I said allegedly.
There we go. So she's flat now, huh? The committee said youngsters are often radicalized, through a toxic mix of anti-Semitism. And that's like the first thing on the list too. We went from misogyny and the evil masculinity to anti-Semitism all of a sudden.
Again, I don't I like bagels, so they got that right.
There we go. Misogyny and conspiracy theories, which have profound implications for national security, public order, and social cohesion. So I have to wonder, though, do they think that the Manosphere is going to rush the border? Do they think it, they're going to, like, I don't know what could possibly happen.
The most of you guys just talk crap on the internet, though, so they don't really do much.
And the biggest thing that I can think of is if the Manosphere actually were to run rampant through the systems of the nations that it's in, right, is you'd end up with more intact families and more intact penises. As this terrifies feminists, I'm sure. Quite likely, you would end up with less crime in the next generation due to having more intact families. You would end up with less dependence on the welfare system. Scandalous, guys. You might not have to budget as much money to pay people to be incapable of supporting themselves, or just unwilling, depending on who you talk to and where you go. Even worse, kids would know who their father was. Like, that's just terrifying. People knowing who their father was. Oh my God. And you would only go to jail if you did something illegal. That would just terrify, I'm sure, all of the authorities. The idea that they could not put people in jail who did nothing illegal. What a horrifying thought for the Jess Phillips of the world. Profound implications. It added... Oh, go ahead.
I did meet a Labour backbencher 6 years ago. I met her when I went up to Parliament. We did a tour in Parliament 6 years ago, and we went round the chambers as well. So it was a nice tour that we went to.
So, did you? How many?
My friend Richard has a lot of trauma to get through.
How many members of Parliament did you have to meet?
I just met one. So we was doing a thing about fireworks. Trying to get fireworks not banned, but to limit the sale of fireworks during the November. So I said to her aide, you need to focus that onto women and children because no one will care about soldiers with PTSD. And the aide kind of had a shocked look on his face when I said that.
Well, you were right. If they wanted to ban something, yeah, the best thing is to, if they want to do it and it's something that should be banned, which fireworks, depending on where you are, it's kind of 6 to 1, half dozen the other. There's this neat thing called the Darwin Awards.
I told him focus on women and pets.
Yeah, because if you suggest that women are going to be scared by the fireworks or that it'll start house fires if women won't get out, all of a sudden everybody will want to ban fireworks, right? But if you just talk about how soldiers with PTSD might be traumatized,
that's why I said first. But that's why I said first. But no one cared.
Yeah, they would then turn around and say, nobody cares. And they need to get over it or whatever. People don't seem to have the same. I've even seen people harass soldiers with PTSD for having not support animals, the real helper animals, or have another name. But you hear about support animals so much. But basically, the dog is there to assist the soldier in maintaining control of himself in a situation where his brain is trying to take him back to a combat zone or some other horrifying experience that he had during a war, which if he's a Gen Xer and he went to Desert Storm or Desert Shield, it might have just been the Afghani soldiers raping little boys in the next room, because that happened, and the military told our guys they weren't allowed to do anything about it.
They were told to stand down.
They were told to stand down. That's right, and they came back with horror stories about that, wanting to go protect those kids. Yes, Meredith G reminded me, service animals. So I've seen soldiers get harassed for having service animals. Not where I live. I think where I live, if somebody harassed a soldier here, half the community would beat the shit out of them for it. But I mean, I could just about throw a rock from home and hit the base. So, but I have been places where I have seen that happen, and it's just insane. Like, obviously, the dog isn't there for emotional support, just for emotional support for the soldier. The dog is there to protect the soldier, and depending on the circumstances, to protect you. And yet, people get cheesed off about, how can you let that animal in here? Well, ma'am, we let you in here, and we can't discriminate between different types of bitches. So there you go. But yeah. So the report adds, misogyny was described to us by somebody. It doesn't say who, right? It doesn't explain. It just says, misogyny was described to us as a persistent and pervasive feature of online extremism. Notice that it doesn't say within the Manosphere or within the men's rights movement or among any particular group. It just says online extremism. So we're seeing some very disconnected things here that are being linked together to try to prove anybody that talks about men's issues needs to be silenced. And it gains traction in online subcultures within the broader manosphere, a loosely connected network of groups, influencers, and online communities, including incels, influencing attitudes and behaviors. So, how much influence do you think we've had? They blamed us for Trump getting elected.
People still use your talking points.
Yeah, they do that. That's true. But yeah, I wonder how much behavior we have actually influenced. I'm hoping, for one in particular, in recent years, I'm hoping that people have figured out that if your politician that you like, or the party that you like, uses false rape allegations or false allegations of any type of sexual misconduct as campaign material against the other candidate, that should cost them your loyalty. Period. No questions. No matter what else they're suggesting, that should be enough. That you should no longer support that party, that candidate, and so on. In fact, if they don't have anything better than that person did a bad and we can't prove it, but now we have muddied the water and you've got to vote against that person, that's a reason to completely abandon them. And but before I go on, I thought I saw scooting by here a comment that I should see and read. It's right in front of me. It's actually the most recent comment too. I was scrolling up for it. Think about it. A service animal, service animals can detect when a diabetic has low blood sugar or if an epileptic is about to have a seizure. So of course they can sense when a vet might be in trouble. Yep, exactly. And it is every bit as important as the service animal for any other illness or ailment, because it is, well, it's not an epileptic seizure, PTSD will seize you in a totally different way. It can immobilize you. It can cause behavior that you're not normally prone to engaging in. It can totally change what you see in front of you in a way. It can take you internally to a place where you're not engaging with the world around you. And it could put somebody in danger in the middle of a busy street, or cause somebody to become combative in the middle of a crowd. And so you do need to have service animals for vets with PTSD. It's very important. People with PTSD in general, you can have a moment where you need somebody else to take control of what you're doing. And another human being might scare you enough to make things worse. Where if you learn to rely on a dog, it makes things a lot easier. But while I'm at it, I will also read. I have to switch here. Meredith G gave us $5 in a super chow as well and said, HBR Talk 398, honey for the Badgers. I'm not going to take anything accusations of misogyny seriously in a country which silences any real reporting on grooming gangs and the effects of mass migration. This is also the same government that is taking benefits away from veterans if they are receiving pay for injuries while servicing in a war, received while serving in a war. They're also taking families for soldiers' death benefits. I could go on. Yeah, I had heard about that. So they're basically telling soldiers, yeah, we sent you over to get injured or possibly killed, and it happened. And we said we'd support you if it happened, but now we're not going to. You can go fuck yourselves. Like, that's pretty much. And why? Because they need to pay more benefits to migrants. Just like here in the U.S., there's been, there's not money for this and there's not money for that for a lot of initiatives for American citizens. But there was all kinds of money to send to Ukraine, right? There was all kinds of money to house illegal migrants. And there were people that got thrown out of apartments and houses that they were renting so that the landlord could get 3 times as much money from the government to house migrants that were illegal, that were here illegally. So that's what's going on. But we're not allowed to talk about that, right? Because you're radical if you notice that the government is not treating the new people and the existing citizens the same way. You certainly can't talk about the fact that the government imported them to replace the existing voters. That's definitely an off the table forbidden topic.
Because of the low birth rate.
Yep, because of the low birth rate, and also because nobody else will vote for Democrats. Or possibly some of the other parties in Europe.
And needless to say, landlords are the devil, unless landlords are being paid off by the government. In which case, what landlords? Don't even worry about it. This is all fine. Landlords are bad because they're so rich, so their wealth should be transferred to the government, which is not rich at all. Don't worry about it.
Money printer go burr.
Indeed.
Yeah. So it gains traction in online subcultures within the broader manosphere. Yeah. But they said the system for flushing out wannabe terrorists, Prevent, is outdated. And
all I do is watch train videos and bus videos on YouTube.
So do they actually flag groups of people? Is there anything else that
So I was flagged around 2019.
Good grief.
So because I said I was an incel, somebody Googled it and they looked at all this horrible stuff, and I was
And
put
they
on
got
a yeah. They
they
got
got scared.
yeah. So my
Jesus, Pete.
psychologist said, "Don't mention that you're an incel to anybody but him." So,
You're adorable, bro. We got flagged in
I know.
2015 because we were MRAs. I'm
Yeah.
joking. I'm being flippant for
But we've all met
was,
Richard. He is adorable, actually.
was she being facetious?
Yes. But apparently now watching train videos makes you a terrorist.
And I play and I also play Thomas the Tank Engine as well on Steam.
Oh no,
Uh,
that makes it even worse.
So
You watch train videos and you play video games. That's
about trains.
yep.
It's like the Thomas the Tank Engine game is like Train Simulator. It's like a skin of Train Simulator, but it's Thomas the Tank Engine.
So the one
So,
thing that I will say is I remember Thomas the Tank Engine from when I was older, but I have no memory of Thomas the
yeah.
Tank Engine existing when I was a little kid. But I do have this really weird nightmare about being chased by Thomas the Tank Engine, and it's going to run over me when I was a kid.
I'm sorry for laughing. I don't know why I laughed. Well, I do know why I
have
laughed.
Pride
But
of that thing. And I'm pretty sure that I was traumatized by seeing the talking train as a kid and just blocked it out.
Okay.
But
There was a movie with Alec Baldwin back in the 2000s.
oh geez, that's like I became an adult in 1992. Well, technically, I was 18 in 1990, so I became an adult in the summer of 1990.
But according to feminists, your female brain doesn't evolve until you're 35.
This is probably the biggest cell phone of feminism, admitting that women don't grow up till they're in their 30s. I'm not going to say that I can contradict that based on my behavior as a young woman. So I'm not going to disagree with that. But what it indicates is that women shouldn't vote.
Well, it's obviously like planting the highest possible boundary, with no regard to the lowest possible boundary. When it comes to either sex, I mean, I can totally believe that there are people these days who can reach the age of 30 having not fully mentally developed.
There you
Because
go.
there's all kinds of social mechanisms in place to sort of arrest people's development in that way. So yeah, obviously, but in the same way, there's some people who have lived in abject poverty or something similar to it, or at least the the kind of comparable poverty where they have to figure out how the fuck the world works around them, like, and they. Can you call it a privilege?
Poverty.
Not
Well,
really. You can call
in the way
you
that
can call it an advantage.
I was going to say, in
Like
the way
just-
that feminists name everything good privilege, you probably can, but most things that they call privilege are, yeah, they're just advantages. Just because something is an advantage doesn't mean it's a privilege. If everybody should have it, it's not a privilege.
and the point is, you can't make everyone have this in that kind of system,
Right.
because women are being treated like children, and thus they never develop skills beyond that of children. Well, you're treating men and boys of all ages like adults, and so they develop the skills of adults. And then you go, oh, woe is us. Why is it that men are doing all the adult things and women are doing all the fucking childish things? Well, gee, let me fucking check my quantum watch here. I don't fucking know.
Yeah. But I will admit that I was a dipshit for a lot longer than I should have been into my adult years, and I'm very lucky that I wasn't into anything illegal. So, but I think a lot of women are. I think most women are, actually. I don't think guys can get away with that, but I think a lot of women do when they shouldn't. And
Not even guys with special needs could get away with that.
yeah. In the meantime, you have a total different set of standards for, like, if you're 30 and you're living with, in your family home at 30 as an adult male, and you do not have a job and you are not earning money and you are relying on the income of another adult who lives with you. It doesn't matter whether it's your parents or your wife or a sibling, it doesn't matter. If you don't have some sort of disability to cause that would explain it, and you're just doing that, people would look down on you, right? And if you go to court to extract yourself from that situation and you demand the right to take some of that income with you to keep you in the lifestyle to which you've become accustomed, the judge will just look at you and say, get a job, dude. You don't deserve a part of this income just because you were getting it when you lived in this house. You should go get a job. There's a gas station down the street, go apply there. You could go to the grocery store on the corner, go apply there. Get a job. They're always looking for people at sanitation, right? Get a job. But if you're female and that person happens to be your spouse, then on the way out, you can demand that the court gives you a percentage of his income for the rest of your life. Not even, for a limited amount of time till you get on your feet, but for the whole rest of your life, as long as you don't remarry. And the court will say, well, that's reasonable. Here you go. So no matter how old women get, when we're 99 years old, no teeth, boobs dragging, along behind us when we walk, we are still not mature enough, not adult enough for the court to suggest that at some point we ought to stop depending on someone else for our income.
That's not going to happen in my lifetime, is it?
I don't know. I didn't think alimony would ever end. I didn't think that there would be any states that would ban it or suggest that it was inappropriate in all but the most extreme circumstances. But there are some. So there are some local systems that are waking up. But I don't know if it'll become a universal thing.
That's because women were most affected by alimony.
Yeah, that's true. Some of them got rid of it because men were receiving it. That's pretty bad, too. Oh no, this is benefiting the people that we were trying to use it to punish. But they'll tell you it's not a punishment. It's just supporting your partner. The worst thing about it is in the U.S. where we have no fault divorce, which I'm sure the U.K. pretty much has the same thing now.
Yeah,
it doesn't even matter.
So my mum's friend got divorced, and he was paying £800 in child support. His ex-wife went to a solicitor, and she told the solicitor, and the solicitor said he needs to be paying more. But he put his foot down. He said no. He said he's gonna pay the £800.
So the solicitor, the solicitor is like a lawyer in the United States.
Yeah.
So the solicitor suggested suing for more.
Yeah, but the ex-husband said no. I'm only gonna pay the £800 that they're entitled to. So.
Well,
yeah.
The thing that happens in the U.S. is, if you go back to court, which happens all the time, because she's asking for more child support, you end up having to prove that there is a reason why she shouldn't get it. She doesn't have to prove that there's a reason why she should get it. It's the other way around. So, and for the court, this will make me homeless and cost me my job, and then I won't be able to pay any support, is not a reason. The court does not consider that to be a reason. The court will allow as a reason, they're living in a perfectly safe neighborhood. All of their expenses are paid. The kids are already well taken care of, and she makes 3 times as much money as me. So there isn't a reason why she should receive this, but only if it's in a state where it's mostly based on a percentage of the combined income of the 2 parents. Each parent's income is, if that makes sense. And
So
I could get into that formula more, but I
because
might confuse the hell out of everybody.
there was a comedian that he was paying £5,000 a month in child support, and the judge doubled it because of his earnings the previous year, but he wasn't making that much money the next year.
I know there was one in Canada that had to move to the United States because of that.
Dave Foley from Kids in the Hall. That
Yep.
was his name. Because
Yep.
because he can't step foot in Canada ever again.
Yeah, we have guys here that are homeless because of their combined payments, and they can't make them. They end up unable to make those payments, and they end up because of the combined punishments, which can include losing your driver's license, which makes it difficult for you to get to work. They've ended up losing their jobs and their homes and everything. Guys that have ended up in jail and their child support doesn't go down even after that. And even then, because the reason they went to jail is because they couldn't pay the support that the judge ordered, they don't get it lowered. So when they come out, they have thousands of dollars in arrears. And if they don't start paying on that right away, they just get sent right back. So it's the only instance left in the United States where debtor's prison is a thing. But it's quite the at the same time, we get told that when we talk about this, that we're bashing women, right? Referring to them as gold diggers, talking about them like they don't do anything. And yet, if a woman has an income that's as high as the income that her ex has, and they're sharing equal time with the kids, why should he pay her support? And if they're not sharing equal time with the kids, why not? Because most of the time they should be. And in fact, really, most of the time there never should have been a divorce. The biggest fear I think that a lot of guys have is that they're going to end up in that situation through no fault of their own, where they get married and they have kids, and 5 to 10 years down the line after their wedding day, she gets bored, or she's just not happy, or they're not spending enough time together or whatever, and she decides to go off with some other guy and wants to replace him with that guy in the kids' lives, and goes to court to divorce him, and the court automatically gives her the kids, limits his time with them, and then garnishes his income to pay for that lifestyle choice of hers. And yet we call it child support. And it's no wonder men think of women as children after a certain point in their lives. If women behave that way, that's an incredibly childish thing to do to your partner or anybody else. Why wouldn't they think of women as children? But in any case, going on with this, so they said the system for flushing out wannabe terrorists is outdated inadequately prepared to deal with modern extremism challenges in the digital world. They said long-standing terrorist threats such as Islamist and far-right extremism remain, but new forms of extremism are emerging and give rise to growing concern. And what are these new forms of extremism? What is the monster that is lurking in the internet that these people are so terrified of?
Memes?
Gee.
The Manosphere.
This guy.
Who's that guy?
I know. I've never seen him before this article.
That's
This
the
is,
that's the Tiki
yeah,
Nico, I think.
HS Tiki Taki.
Yeah.
I do think I recognize him from the Louis Theroux documentary.
Yeah, apparently he
But I
has.
can't remember anything he said because he was so vacuous and unnecessary. And I think that was the point of that documentary.
No. This guy is enough by himself to bring the entire UK military to its knees. He is the ultimate threat. The ultimate threat to the UK. That's what they've said here. New forms of extremism are emerging and give rise to growing concern. And they mentioned him even before the feminist devil, Andrew Tate. So HS Tiki Taki is I can't say his name without laughing. Sorry, guys. This guy is the biggest threat in the whole UK.
Yeah.
Sorry. Doesn't he look scary there? With his plastic hookah. I hope that's what that is. I don't want to know what it is if that's not what it is.
You bear in mind, the biggest threat to the UK would never be mentioned in the British press. And
True.
by that, I mean, you got to go deep because Banksy, you would think, was a subversive type that surely is speaking truth to power and would never be mentioned in the legacy media. No, Banksy was mentioned in the legacy media all the fucking time.
It was King.
If you really want to find who's really moving shit and shaking shit, you have to go beyond the television. You have to go beyond the radio. You have to go beyond broadcast media. This is, many of us in the Zennial generation are sort of compiling this bunch of ideas as to how we're supposed to present this to the boomers who raised us. Because there's so much they don't understand. But yeah, shit. I think I just revealed an element of my pure motif, dare I say. Yeah,
But don't give away the entire evil plan.
Yeah, so many of us, we're trying to unite the divide between generations. And I'm like saying, yeah, because we never used to have names for generations. We never used to have this okay boomer thing. And whatever the equivalent is of boomers talking to Gen Zs. Something avocados, something. And yeah, no, I think I already made this point in a video some time ago, but this civil war between generations It seems like a stupid idea. It's been going on for so long that it seems like a normal idea. Because it was boomers, and then it was Gen X, and then it was millennials, and then it was Gen Alpha, and then it was Gen. It's actually not normal to have different names for different generations. Like, and to even have any idea of where one begins and the other ends. Because generations don't work like that. Like, there's always new people being born. And
Well, I'll tell you what started it
old
wasn't
people
something
dying.
good.
Go on.
Right? What started it was not something good. The naming of generations started with the lost generation. The lost generation were also they were essentially, I guess, the I don't know how to explain. They came home from the war, and the world was different than the way that it was when they went to war, and they couldn't find their place. They couldn't go back into normal life, but they couldn't they really couldn't go back to where they came from. And there was no it didn't exist anymore. And so they really didn't have a place. And they were treated like they really didn't have a place. And the term was not popularized by like some official this is the way generations work, kind of. It was writers. It was popular first widely popularized by Gertrude Stein and Ernest Hemingway. Mostly I think Ernest Hemingway. And it just really caught on. And then after that, you had them describing the generations based on some characteristic that stood out about them. The greatest generation was incredibly adaptable. The baby boomer generation happened because people came home from the war and fucked like rabbits. And so they had a lot of kids. They had more kids than expected, way more kids than expected. And that was the baby boomer generation because they came from the baby boom. And Gen X, they started naming us Gen X because we didn't act like the previous generations. And we didn't make sense. So we were a bit of a chemical X to them, I guess you could say. They didn't understand us, and we didn't understand them. We didn't get along very well, and they saw us as impending failures because we weren't doing things their way. And there was a lot of media publication about, oh, Gen X is slow starters, Gen X failure to launch, blah 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 blah. Well, then they did the same thing to the next generation, which they started calling Generation Y initially, the media. But eventually called them millennials, I guess because that sounds cooler or something. But in the long run, they were wrong about both generations. And as each generation passes, they come up with another, well, we had Gen X, so we have to have Gen Y, and we had to have Gen Z, and that's where Zoomer comes from. And of course, the generation after them has to be Gen Alpha, like we had gone through the whole alphabet and we're starting over. But we didn't do that. So it's kind of silly. And the reality is that there's always going to be generational differences. There's always going to be dramatic differences between groups of people. But one of the biggest, I think, was between boomers and Xers. And I think a lot of it is because of how technology changed. And I hope they don't continue with the alphabet thing. And Mangaka 92 has already touched on why in the Shoot. In the Rumble chat, Gen Beta. I do not want to run into Gen Beta. We're gonna hear nothing but Alpha Beta
I
talk.
I have a Gen Beta cousin. He was born last December.
Oh my gosh. See, we can't call them that. We cannot call them Gen Beta. We have to come up with something else. They have to have a different name. They cannot be called Beta. That's just not nice. But in any case, if we did consider it, then everybody that has a boy when Gen Gamma comes around has to name him Ray. So yes, this terrible threat, the horrific threat of the, what is this guy in his 20s? So he would be a millennial, right?
He'd be a Zoomer.
Zoomer. Oh God, that's right, because
be,
the millennials are in their 30s.
He'd be a late Zoomer, early Gen Alpha.
Yeah, I think I just saw a 20th anniversary something about Pokemon not too long ago. That's probably the
30th.
oldest I felt in a while. 30th, you're right, 30th. And it, yeah,
So,
I'm old. That makes me old. Right there. But yeah, so this guy is a millennial or a Zoomer, right? And that's who they're scared of.
I would come with a Selenial, the X kind of Selenial.
Okay. That's my brother's kind of like that. He counts sort of as both millennial and a Gen Xer. But yeah, I can't imagine being scared of that guy. But it goes on. It warns the UK currently lacks the evidence base and up-to-date research needed to keep pace with these developments. So they don't have evidence that these people are extremists or that they're dangerous or any other such thing. But they need to make up some evidence so they can do something about the free thinkers. That's really bad. All the free thinkers might destroy the country. Amid concerns from experts that Britain is so much in the dark. Committee chairman Dame Karen, of course she's a Karen, Dame Karen Bradley told the Mail, children and young people are being radicalized by what they experience online. Increasing numbers of cases are being uncovered where children and young people, fueled by the hate they see in the digital sphere, have planned to carry out violent attacks in the real world.
No, we don't.
Have they done it?
No. We mostly just shitpost online.
Geez.
This is the old media stressing over the fact that they're being taken over by the new media. I imagine something similar happened when the printing press was invented, and like the scribes who used to scribe all of the media were like, this can't be allowed to happen. How dare people just have a device that can just print words? How very dare you? And I mean, for anyone who's tried to keep up with what's going on the television over the last 20 years, while also paying attention to what's going on the internet, you'll notice that the people on the TV are spreading all kinds of lies about how the internet is full of pedophiles and terrorists and shit. And yeah, I guess it is. All right, whatever. But so is the TV.
I guess we're all getting terror-pedoed.
Yeah, and I look at this future of AI, and I think, well, that's my competition. Anyone who makes videos or even podcasts online will look at AI and go, well, that's my competition. So this is why I'm reluctant to sort of engage in my anti-AI rants. Anything I have stored up there,
Yeah.
because I don't want to fall into the same trap that the legacy media fell into when the internet was invented. Yeah, of course you're going to criticize your competition. And yeah, I feel the need to criticize my competition, which is AI. And I guess it's ironic that the very legacy media that tries to bury me is probably going to try and use AI to bury me from the other direction.
Well, it'll
Wait,
be interesting.
what was I? What were we even talking about? Oh yeah, something about fucking gender politics. Sorry, I went
Yeah.
off on quite the tangent there.
It'll be interesting because what I'm seeing right now is people of various beliefs trying to manipulate AI and use AI as a tool to promote their beliefs. But there seems to be this consensus among its creators that it'll eventually outpace human thinking and operate on its own without human control or assistance or influence of any type. And I have a feeling that when that happens, it's basically just if that happens, it's going to call bullshit on all of the isms, all of the phobias, and all of the accusations of isms and phobias, and there won't be any further ability to push any of this bullshit that we're having to deal with. And people will not be getting called extremist for suggesting that if something is a human right, that doesn't, there's not some group of humans, some demographic that is excluded because of their skin color or their sex or their religion or anything else like that. It's a human right. Emphasis on the human, not the right, and that's going to change things. But have no idea if that's a near future or distant future prediction, or if it'll even come into play at all. But in the meantime, we have to deal with these dipshits in politics. The people within the parliamentary system at the head of every country that either is part of the UK or started out as a UK colony, or took its government system from the UK, and that basically is a large portion of Europe, as well as the United States, Canada, Australia, I think New Zealand. So we're looking at a lot of all over the world these systems where the parliamentary system is trying to maintain its power by demonizing men, and in particular, demonizing men having any self-interest at all. And making it out, like Richard pointed out, if you really want to turn something into the big baddie, you paint it as a thing that hurts women. And that's what this is all about. This is about government power and establishment media power. So when they say, this threat is growing and evolving, they mean the threat that you might maintain a sense of self-interest and not just accept everything bad they want to do to you that comes down the pike. The response has failed to keep pace. In other words, the peasants are revolting. The support mechanisms intended to guide young people away from radicalization were designed in a different age. In other words, we can't brainwash the children anymore. They're starting to think for themselves. And they don't have sufficient understanding of algorithm and AI-driven content, meaning that the people who are influencing them to think for themselves have tools that we can't stop. or the patchwork of conspiracy theories warping young people's minds. Oh shit, they've figured out what we're doing. She said the government needs to find ways to stop hatred, intimidation, and violence being monetized as it is currently. So if we cut off the revenue streams, these people will shut up. That's what she's basically saying. Dame Karen added, it needs to combat the business model as well as the individuals responsible. If it's not profitable, if we cut off the revenue stream, these people will no longer be able to influence other people. The committee has called on the Home Office to better understand emerging forms of extremism like this dork. And of course, he has the dumbest expression there. The report found just over 1/3, 36% of the nearly 9,000 referrals to the government's counterterrorism prevent scheme in the year to March 2025 were between 11 and 15. Okay. What the fuck did they think an 11-year-old is going to do? Did they think he's going to build a bomb in his basement? Do they expect there to be some 11-year-old kid storming the gates of Parliament? Like, if that's a 5th grader, right? In the US, that's a 5th grader.
An 11-year-old kid nowadays was born in 2015. Now, this is difficult for any of us to understand because most of us are, Gen X or millennial or something. But yeah, we're talking about kids who have grown up with a personal tablet. No. Maybe I'm looking too far into the future. Maybe I'm looking at my own experience. But no, it's been going on for some time. Humans have been introduced to their own specific devices for a long time now. I don't know if it started with Nintendo, but Nintendo was certainly in there. But at least in those days, all they could do was program a game, something where you jump over things and stuff. But now we're at the point where, and I've forgotten what I'm responding to, but I'll go ahead and describe what I was.
The question of what an 11-year-old boy could possibly be planning on doing that they would think of him as a terrorist worthy of federal investigation.
Yeah, but meanwhile, let's look at what the TV is doing. The TV is telling you that men oppress women. Something that video games never did. Video games never said, hey, men oppress women. Sorry, Anita, it never happened. But televisions, and indeed movie screens, have been telling women to get revenge on men for quite a while now. And so have internet screens. All kinds of screens have been in the business of telling women to get revenge on men because what was it men did? I don't know, whatever it was. They
Give women a comfortable life.
Something like that. That'll do.
How dare you?
To men.
How very dare. Yep. So that is that's the scary thing about the 11-year-old. He might grow up to invent something that makes women's lives so easy that they're just bored all the time. You know, like the guy that invented the washing machine, so that women don't have to beat clothing on rocks anymore
Or
to get the
or you might
laundry
just
done.
or you might just end up watching Red Dwarf and quoting that a lot.
There you go. He might be a complete and utter weeb and only speak in anime quotes, and then all the women around him will hate him, except for the ones who are also weebs. So there you go. Um,
Women weebs are always looking to upgrade, so they won't go out of their male equivalent.
that's true. That's like any other women. Just like any other women.
Same with disabled women as well.
Yep.
I'll never forget I blackpilled an entire Discord because of that. I said I went into a Discord call and they were talking about like PUA stuff and red pill stuff, and I said even disabled women have hypergamy.
Yeah. I bet that was a
That
shocker
shocked.
to him.
Yeah. So because when I say that on Twitter, no one really believes me. So
Yeah. But it's true. There's not really, and some of it is natural and some of it is taught. And it's been taught for centuries, even back in the day when marriages were arranged. Like if you, as a father of a daughter, like your prospects were either your daughter lives with you until you die and you have to support her until you die and you have to work your whole life to support this old maid, or she marries and someone else is going to support her. And you don't want her to come home, so you want her to marry someone who supports her better than you did, so that she'll stay with him, right? That's hypergamy. That is a root or a seed of hypergamy in human civilization. But if women are going to like if they do what the trad cons want, which is basically to not bring money into the household in any significant way, then they do have to marry somebody who is marrying up. They do have to marry up, otherwise, you do end up working, right? And sometimes even if you marry up, but he's divorced, you still end up working, right? So there you go. The vast majority of referrals, nearly 5,000, were listed as having no specific ideology, while another 1,798 were concerned with right-wing, extreme right-wing ideology. So they're the minority, right? But they're the ones that are being looked at here. Islamist extremists accounted for 870 referrals, while incel extremism, men who describe themselves as involuntarily celibate, are often characterized by misogynistic views.
we don't really do much. We're just in our rooms.
Yep. Was connected to 66 referrals. But, I mean, if you can get referred just for sitting in your room watching trains and talking about how you've been treated by other people, then it's not a very good system.
Nope.
So then it goes on. Southport killer Axel Rudacabana. Can I call him Axel Rutabaga?
Yeah, go ahead.
Who murdered 3 schoolgirls at a dance class in Southport 2024, is alleged to have launched his horror knife rampage out of an incel hatred of women. All right,
Wait,
so
what?
Citation needed.
yeah,
Yeah, no. What?
I
Oh,
just wanna. I found this guy's picture.
Don't show it again. It could be nightmares.
Space is not important. Wait, this is the first I've heard that he was some kind of fucking
I
incel.
think this is him. This is
Show
This
the
is
picture.
from an image. This image is from an article that is called. This is from unheard.com, which is not really a great source.
It's a
But
feminist. It's a feminist thing.
yeah, there's a bunch of different images. Most of them are drawn images from court. But this is the image that I remember being run all over the place.
Yeah, that one. Yeah,
Ah,
Yes,
that's
this
his
guy,
mugshot.
he just tasted a lemon.
well, he's holding in the fart. He's holding in the fart.
While this picture was being taken, the BBC was presenting everyone with a 13-year-old Axel Rudikabana as some bright-eyed, bushy-tailed pupil of a small school who just enjoyed Doctor Who cosplay and whatnot.
They did the same thing with Trayvon Martin as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this picture. See if I can get this right.
Yeah, same person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at that. Would you go ahead and look at that?
He was stabbed in prison like a while ago. So
Was he?
yeah.
I hope he dies. Like, I don't often get to say this, but I hope Axel Rudikabana dies in prison as soon as possible. I don't want anyone's taxes going toward him continuing to live. I see no reason why he should live.
Did
Like,
this guy state a reason why he
No.
did what he did?
No.
I'm sure he did, but the police did not record it nor send it on to the mass media. I imagine it's something along the same lines as the guy who stabbed Irina Zariska. I got that white girl. I imagine. Now, I don't have any concise evidence about this, but I would think he sought out a dance class of little white girls, and he tracked down that dance class of little white girls, and he stabbed.
Sounds like a very disturbed individual.
He stabbed as many of them as he could. He killed 3 of them. He injured another 8 of them, and when he stood up in court, he showed no remorse whatsoever. He was like, "Yeah, I'm glad they're dead. I'll do it again." And I'm like, why is this man alive? What reason do we have to keep this man alive?
There's also
This guy had no involvement in anywhere in the men's rights movement, right?
No.
Brave.
No whatsoever.
I'll give you what Brave AI found in various news stories. It gives citations for each news story, but it pointed out that prosecutors and the sentencing judge described him as a young man with a sickening and sustained interest in death and violence. And it went on. He didn't state a motivation per se, but things that he did make known, things that he did say, included a desire for mass murder. He had a settled and determined intention to murder as many kids as he could at that dance class. Showed a lack of remorse. Like you said, he said, "I'm glad to see those kids dead. It makes me happy." Obsession with violence. He had a long-standing fixation on genocide, school shootings, and Al-Qaeda training manuals, which he used to plan the attack. But he didn't have a political manifesto, which probably made things very difficult for feminists. The thing that really struck me about this, and the mention of this, and how much hay they've made with this, is that they used it as fuel for adolescence, in which, right? Yeah. So you have, this is the killer, adolescents portrayed a little boy like this, only white, as the killer, and the reason was different, and the behavior was different, and they made it all about him being radicalized by the Manosphere. So there's been a sustained effort to translate Axel Rutabaga's
I'll
behavior
do.
into. Rutabagas really don't deserve that. They're actually pretty good. They kind of tasty, but you have to roast them first. But yeah, they're gonna translate this
There
guy's
was
complete insanity. Like, he's obviously fucked up in the head. To
there,
people talking about human rights and human behavior.
there was also one called Brandon. He was a white guy that went on a stabbing spree like a couple of years ago. If you remember that one.
You're gonna have to narrow that down a bit, my dude.
I don't.
He was like a white guy. It was named Brandon. Give me a minute.
In New Zealand?
No, in England. It was in England. So it was in Portsmouth. The stabbings took place in Portsmouth, I think. Give me a minute.
Are you talking about on a train?
No, he just stabbed random people. So he stabbed his mom. He left the house. Then he stabbed a couple of people. Then he was arrested.
Brandon Hain?
I think so. It was like a fat white guy.
It's not related to Sam Hain, is he?
Is this the thing that happened
He was
recently?
20. He was an adult.
Yeah, he did that. He worked in a supermarket.
Yeah. No, they didn't use him probably because he was an adult. Although, I guess at the time of the crime, this guy was like, what, 17? Mr. Scary Face. I guess he was trying to make a scary face in that mugshot.
He's trying to, but yeah.
He really did. He looks like you offered him a piece of candy and then it turned out to be like an extreme warhead. The warhead candies are extremely sour. I don't know if they sell them in the UK. They probably sell an equivalent, but they're not even as sour as they used to be back in the day. Because I had one not too long ago, and it was not that bad. But he looks like, you offered him something yummy and sweet, and then had him take a mouthful of lemon or something. But yeah, so it's clearly a disturbed individual. That his being disturbed had nothing to do with anything he saw on TV or heard in the media. He was just a disturbed individual, and then he sought out more disturbing material to hone how disturbed he was and the way he was disturbed, I guess. But the committee said online spaces play a central role in changing the nature of an extremist threat. Like, if this guy hadn't been able to find the stuff he was looking for online, he wasn't going to try to do anything to anybody. He just, all of the statements that I see about him in the court pretty well indicate that he was going to be violent regardless. But they want to use him, so they're going to use him, right? They found social media and gaming platforms, online forums, influencers, and creative tools such as memes. Oh no, guys. You have to watch out for the memes.
The stabbings took place in Plymouth, and his name was Jack Davison.
Okay.
No, Jake Davison. So it was a Plymouth. So yeah. Hello.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just. Then he was an adult too, 22-year-old man.
Yeah.
So again, not an extremist kid.
But he just had the mum that was nagging him a bit too much. So
There you go. But obviously another disturbed individual, because honestly, most people's moms nag them a bit too much. I'm guilty. And they don't go around stabbing anybody. So clearly the problem was with the individual and not with the just like. And there are thousands of incels, but only 66 referrals. Kind of
let's just
indicates that whole narrative about incels being an extremist culture is kind of bullshit.
and we get harassed by journalists and we get doxxed a lot.
Yeah.
So there's this journalist called BX. She harasses incels a lot as well.
There's one
So
that I saw. We're actually going to do a discussion about it. Some chick on X wanting to interview incels didn't say anything about herself. Didn't give any information. Just asked, "Are you an incel? Are you willing to talk to me for an article about what people get wrong about the incel subculture? Please get in contact. DMs are open."
I sent you
And
that one a while ago, didn't I?
yeah. She got a lot of responses. We're gonna look at some of those on the after show
Okay.
because I don't think she got taken very seriously.
No woman does no woman does anymore because of what happened in the past.
Yeah, well, it makes sense.
Oh, there's this person called BX on Twitter. She harasses incels as well. A couple of you guys talk to her as well, but she harasses
Yeah,
she harasses the main incel person. She harassed him and she doxed him, but she doesn't go after Calivia for some reason.
oh, that's really strange.
Because
Um,
the guy who wants the incel account is black, and I think that's why she went after him.
mm, it could be. It could be. I talked to her a bit in the beginning, um, kind of after the incel project kind of fell apart because she was talking about what happened to her. And I thought maybe I could get in some information to help her, but BX didn't have any information, any real
Mm.
information on her. So
Because BX is one of those. I think she's like a narcissist allegedly. I'm saying allegedly.
well, you also said I think, which makes it an opinion. So, um, but it's hard to tell. And like I said, I really haven't had a lot of contact with her since then because she didn't have the information that I was looking for. And she wasn't very good at communicating back and forth. So I
Nope.
didn't try to I didn't try to get her on. But or at least not after the first few times I communicated with her. But it goes on. Um, let's see. They found social media and gaming platforms, online forums, influencers, and creative tools such as memes, humor. So humor is now a tool of extremism. If you do something funny and people laugh, you're a baddie now, guys.
Apologies for being funny. Allegedly.
Allegedly. And coded messaging make extremist narratives easily accessible and highly engaging, particularly for younger audiences. Adam Hadley, executive director of the Tech Against Terrorism group, TAT, underlined the significance of tackling online harms. So if they have feminists working with Tech Against Terrorism, would that be tit for tat?
Basically, yeah.
He told the committee We know that in every or almost every case of terrorism in this country over the past 5 years, the internet has played a fundamental role, not an incidental role. It has been fundamental.
What does that mean?
I need to be able to mimic Don Knotts for this.
What does incidental mean?
Incidental is like kind of coincidental. Incidental means it's there, but it's not really an underlying cause. It might have been a contributing factor, or it might have been a result. It might be related, but it's not important, right? Whereas the fundamental thing that indicates that it's because of their online activity that they engaged in this type of terrorism over the last 5 years.
But mostly on the forums, it's just that they're lamenting what could have been, or what they can do to be better. So there's no like terrorist on the forums.
That's you say they just tell women what they could do to be better?
Yeah, they talk amongst themselves and what they can improve on.
Oh, they
and
tell
stuff
each
like that.
other what they could do.
Yeah.
That's even worse. As I say, it's we get told all the time that it's harassment and misogynistic and
No, it's the other way
online
around.
gender-based violence to tell women what
No,
they could do to be better. But for
because
men to improve themselves is even worse.
because we had the Bates was obsessed with the forum, and I think she was on there, but I think she was banned, and her IP address was banned, so she can't make a new account.
Well, that definitely will keep her out unless she goes and there's ways to get around that.
I don't
But
think I don't think she's that intelligent to do that.
yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I didn't get enough information to be able to make that kind of assessment. But what I do know is if somebody's really determined to get into a forum, an IP ban won't stop them. But unless they don't know anything about computers and IPs and so on,
And
or maybe they're broke.
and every time a new Incel documentary comes out, it gets DDoS attacked as well. So that's every time a new Incel documentary comes out.
The forum gets DDoSed.
Yeah.
Essentially, it would be like a DDoS. Everybody going to check it out, look at the train wreck or whatever. We've had that happen a few times. Stuff gets published about the men's rights movement, and they talk about the Honey Badger Brigade, or we get featured in an article, which we haven't in a long time. But I mean, the last time we were featured in anything moderately establishment level, we basically got DDoSed by people looking for the train wreck, and we ended up. It actually caused us to have to sort of reboot the blog one time. We thought we were going to lose all our articles, but we didn't. I went through and archived everything on the damn site, at least everything that wasn't just a show link, and it actually was completely unnecessary. I spent like 3 days doing that, and it was completely unnecessary. But in any case, so we are at, I think this is the end of the article. Yep. He told the committee, we know that internet has played an incidental role, not fundamental, or it has been fundamental. Yet our understanding of that journey, what sites people have been on, and what content they have consumed is extremely poor. And here's where they have buried what they really want, right? They don't want you to have privacy. They want your browser spying on you. They want your IP address spying on you. They want your ID attached to your usage so that you can be spied on. And if you say anything that is politically against the current establishment, you can then be penalized. And it won't be about what your thoughts are on women in a year. It won't be about what your thoughts are about any particular religious group or racial demographic or anything else like that. It'll be, do you comply with the government? Right? Do you support the party that is in power? Because if you don't, then they'll come after you. That's what that'll be about. But just like any other time, they're using women are in danger. Misogyny. This extremism is a threat to women. Men talk about their own self-interest. Oh my God, women most affected. In order to pave the way, scare enough people to suggest that, gosh, we're going to have to impose more controls on the internet. We're going to have to set it up so that not only do people not have anonymity when they're speaking on the internet, but they can't have anonymity when they're looking and listening either. So if you open up a video, your local law enforcement might get an alert, right? If you read a meme, if you look at a meme and see the image, they might get an alert. If you friend the wrong person on social media and that person has engaged in a lot of wrong video watching or wrong news site reading, they might get an alert on you. That's what they're trying to do. That's what they're trying to set up. And that's what articles like this are about. They don't care about incels, right? They don't care about pickup artists. They don't care about women. They care about being able to micromanage your mind. And that's why we're here. We want to point out what they're doing so that you're aware of it while you still have a chance to do something about it. And with that, we have reached the end of the article. And I will notice, like, the first comment. So, all of that waffle and lefty propaganda is down to a Home Affairs Committee report. No surprise then. So it seems like it's not working on everybody. But hopefully it's not working on very many people at all. And in the meantime, I will thank everybody for listening. That is our article. I want to see if I have any further super chows. We have Dark Kikimura gave us $200. Thank you very much for that. And said, Doc, in response to your theory about men preferring dolls and women preferring math puzzles in video games, do you think if you are a more hardcore retro gamer when you play 8-bit games instead of 16-bit games, that women were more hardcore games in 1995 when 14% of SNES players were women, but 46% of Game Boy Game Boy players were female? I'm asking retro gamer to retro gamer, not MRA to MRA. Changing Mama from Doki Doki Panic to Luigi was misogynistic erasure of an empowered Arabic woman, and feminists don't care because they don't believe in empowered Arabic women. Feminists should sacrifice their B-button run for women, and the Manosphere should stop making fun of short men via added mushroom mechanics in SMB2 USA. Because there's a better FDS out there than female dating strategy. Apply free hat principles to video games, and I hope $200 covers this. Now that you talked about Nintendo like 10 minutes ago. Jeez, Pete. Doc, you got a response?
I did 4 references ago. Was that whole rant like the whole, like one whole?
Yeah. Should I? I'll post it in our
Yeah.
chat.
Yeah, please do. I I had a really good response like
There you
4
go.
points ago, but then you sort of loaded another 4 or 5 points on top of that, and then I was like, "Well, I'm drunk." Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Dr. Edna Cam, and I'm drunk, and I am unable to remember all of the things you said just now. I'm sorry.
So I have posted it in our chat. It's a long one.
Yes, fine.
It's like a giant wall of text.
Yeah. Well, the whole time I was sitting there thinking, that's retro gaming, right? But I grew up on Pac-Man and
Pong.
Demon Attack, the Warlords, Pong,
Space Invaders
Space Invaders. Oh yeah, that was like one of my favorites. We had that. We had the Atari 2600
with the
and
joystick.
yep, with the joystick. And although my absolute favorite game was a puzzle game. It was called Adventure. And you played a pixel. You were a dot. And you could pick things up. And you could only pick one thing up at a time. You had to get a key and open a palace and go in there and get the golden chalice. But to do that, you had to go into other palaces and get objects in there to get the key. And the other thing was there were 3 dragons. There was an aggressive red dragon. There was a crazy yellow dragon that just went everywhere. And there was a green dragon. It would still chase you, but it wouldn't necessarily chase you, follow you from room to room. But the red dragon would. And so you had to navigate while avoiding these dragons, because if you touched the dragon, it ate you and you died. And you could pick up and carry the dead dragons too sometimes. So yeah, it was really my favorite game. And it was my first time discovering an Easter egg. I found a secret room.
Oh, nice.
So I was the only kid in the neighborhood that found that room, and I thought about telling the other kids, and then I thought, no, if I tell them, then they'll never find out if they could find it or not. And come to find out when I got older, most people didn't find that room. So, but Mike, have you made sense of the wall of text?
No. Sorry. I've been sat here trying to cure my hiccups for the last 10 minutes.
Oh, that's
Terribly
okay.
sorry. Continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll have to skip it. You'll have to give an answer to this in the next episode. We'll call it a cliffhanger,
Okay.
right?
Oh.
Next time on the HBR Talk,
Yep.
and a bunch of clips of things exploding.
So I have one more thing, right? This post by Paul Elam, which I found today. I'm on and off of social media, and this was one of my on moments. This is for an event, so you'll have to watch his account. This is his name on X, right here. Real Paul Elam, because his older accounts had been suspended on Twitter, but I think he has those back now. An ear for men and a voice for men. Either way, this is the account to follow Paul Elam. And this event, starting May 13, Repairing the Manosphere goes live on X.
That's before my birthday.
Yep. 8 p.m. Eastern. So my assumption is that this is going to be a regular stream. And I recommend that you should listen if you get the opportunity, because he definitely will have some words of wisdom. And a lot of this point right here is very important. The original Manosphere was the men's rights movement and men going their own way. Pickup artists at that original time really didn't have any association with red pill anything, and they didn't talk about it that way. And even tradcons really weren't, like, they would call themselves red pilled because we did, because we called ourselves red pilled. But the stuff they were talking about was more traditional bullshit, not actual seeing through the way things, and a lot of them are pretty blue pilled on women even now. A lot of them think that if you know, and as much as I say to vet women for character, I disagree with this, but a lot of them think that if you vet a woman for character, you're guaranteed that she's not going to betray you. My point when I suggest vetting women for character is that there's a better chance that she's not going to betray you. Significantly better if she has, if she's more masculine in some ways. Like, if she wants money, she goes out and gets a job and earns it. Right? And if she sees a problem, she starts doing things to fix it instead of calling someone else for help. Unless she realizes that it needs expertise, like an electrician or a doctor, and she's not those things, then she knows to rely on an expert, right? Whereas most women will call for help at the drop of a pin, but then they'll try to fix complicated things that they don't have the knowledge to fix, especially when it comes to like medical shit. And they'll give you the worst advice. So you do want to vet women for character if you're going to be in relationships with women, but you still have to be prepared that, you know, a woman who seems trustworthy might be a lot less trustworthy than she really is. And the difficult thing is women are constantly bombarded with influence by the lowest common denominators among women. They're constantly bombarded with messages about men, about you in particular, and the men around you, all the men in the world. But their female friends, the women in their lives, are going to tell her everything you do is wrong or bad or mean or whatever. And she has to be strong enough and tough enough. She has to be a strong, independent woman who don't need no gossip queens. Right? She can't be a strong, independent woman who don't need no man. It's important that she needs you, but it's also important that she doesn't need them, and she doesn't put up with their bullshit. But I think a lot of times tradcons miss that. Tradcons miss the fact that women will drag each other down, like crab in a bucket syndrome. Women will destroy each other's relationships, especially if theirs have fallen apart. Women will demonize you to your wife or girlfriend in an effort at making her as unsuccessful at relationships as they are. And whether her character changes or not because of that, it all depends on her strength. So vetting is limited. It's better than not vetting, but it's still limited. And I think it's one of the failures of the tradcon end of the red pill osphere is that they blame the man when a woman 10 or 15 years down the line who seemed wise and was appearing to have good character, slowly deteriorates and becomes an evil fucking cunt and divorces him and takes his kids and bankrupts him. I mean, it's his fault for not seeing that she would do that, when in reality, if she would do it, any woman might. So, on that lovely little nearly gray or nearly black gray pill, right? I think that that's pretty much everything I'm going to say about it. But definitely check this out, because it is going to be good. No more super chats, no more super chows. I don't think I missed any super chats this time. I have missed super chats in the past couple of shows, but I'm like, as I'm scrolling through, I don't see a single one. So we will be ending it here. No Rumble rants. So thanks everybody, and good night all.
Men's right activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.